So, good morning. We're a bit short of time, and Mahesh very generously offered us an extended period later on today to talk about what ESA's doing, what our plans are, and to get some reflection from you on what your needs are and your expectations are, and if you have any questions, and to come together on the future of the program. I have some charts. Given the time and what I just saw, I'm not going to use them. I made some notes during Laurie's talk, and I just wanted some things to just to reflect on. So first of all, it's just really, really good to be back here at the European Lunar Symposium. And thank you to Mahesh and to all the organizers for putting this meeting together. It is a fabulous meeting, always wonderful. And it's a huge amount of work. And I just want to say also thank you to Servi and to Greg and the team there. So this meeting started, I'm looking around the room, I think there's a lot of people here who weren't there for the first meeting. But this has changed a lot. So I remember just reflecting what we've just seen. Some years ago, the moon wasn't really a thing. I mean, it's there, obviously, but it wasn't really a thing, right? There wasn't a lot of activity going on. And there was a community of people who were interested in lunar exploration and doing lunar science, and people who understood that sooner or later this is going to happen. And at that time, I think Servi were fantastic in really starting and supporting the creation of this meeting and a community within Europe at a time when it wasn't really possible for anybody else to do it. And that has been extremely helpful, and I'm personally extremely grateful. I know that we in ESA are very grateful to Servi and the team for all that they did to help to build this community within Europe. So I was looking at these slides just then. So if you weren't here at the first European Lunar Symposium, you may not realize just how different it is now. Back then, the idea of having a payload on the moon was quite fancy. Oh, maybe we can get a CubeSat. Did you just see that? Goodness me, this is different, right? And one thing that's really difficult, I think, maybe to get your head around, it's taken me a while to understand it, is this is not a mission. We're not doing this is an architecture. It's a completely different beast. It's lots and lots of bits and pieces all coming together to do something which is sustainable and huge and can change with time, is dynamic, is changeable, is adaptable. It's really quite extraordinary what we're trying to do. Nobody's ever done this before. Nobody, and it's been really, really impressive and fascinating to watch how this has come together, how the architecture comes together. And it's been interesting watching NASA working out what is an architecture, and then trying to bring in the international community in terms of other agencies and the commercial sector and the science community to understand this. And it's been really good for us in ESA to also reflect on that and how we start to think about how we do things. And so a little bit later on, we talk through what ESA's planning to do. What you're going to see is a little bit of us reflecting in ESA about how do we, as an agency, and how do we in Europe adapt to this brave new world, this brave new moon, where it's not about doing an ESA mission, it's about how do we do something that allows us to be self-determined, to be the masters of our own fate, but to do so in a way which allows us to participate in a meaningful way with an international architecture that is ultimately going to be there forever, we hope, and sets us on a path to go far beyond the moon and to do greater things besides. So I think what we've seen is something change where from the moon being something which is really not a huge thing in Europe to something which is becoming a huge priority. And we're experiencing a period of change, and we'll talk a little bit later about what that change looks like and to get your reflections on some of what that change looks like. But what I hope you can see is that we'll talk about later on is we've had some of our first successes in Europe this year. And what you would have seen in the slides you just saw was there's a lot of ESA badges on there. And I'm hoping you're going to see a lot more ESA badges on slides like that in the years to come. And so we're working on how we're going to build on the partnerships we have at the moment on the European Service Module for Orion, on the Gateway modules, and on other things we're building to move down from low Earth orbit to cislunar and then down to the lunar surface. And we're building our cooperation for the Artemis lunar surface activities to come. Certainly, one thing you're going to see is that the partnerships are always going to be an important part of why ESA explores and why Europe explores, but also the way we do that will also start to change a little bit. But this community has been a cornerstone of what we do. It has been extremely important in setting up all of the activities we have now. I know a lot of you have been involved in activities over the last years, and a little bit later on, we might want to talk a little bit about that too. All of the inputs you have provided to us in that time are extremely helpful and are being used now. So all of the things that you're going to see are building on the work that you have done over the last years and are helping us to build the future. We want to continue to involve you in that future as it evolves in some of the activities that are going to come. So I think what I would just like to say is that maybe just to leave you with a few key messages before you go into the session this afternoon. The first of all, that the moon is a priority now. Getting Europe to the surface of the moon is a priority now. And getting to Europe to orbit around the moon is a priority now. That partnerships are always going to be important, but we also need to adapt in Europe and become self-determinant and become more self-contained and the masters of our own fate as well, and to be a stronger partner through those things. Uplifting science is a phrase which our senior leadership are using repeatedly now, that building science up in this context is something which is really important that we need to do. And there are two parts of that. Part of that is we need to emphasize the science that we need to do to make exploration possible. We're doing some of that now, and you're going to see that emerging as really a priority within our program. And that we're also looking to create opportunities through our program to make science possible, the science that is only made possible by the fact we're exploring and the capabilities we're building. And so as we experience this change and we do this together, this is going to be a combination of what ESA is doing, what our national agencies are doing. So ESA is the agency, it's an agent of our member states. And so when we talk about a European space program, a European exploration program, it is what ESA is doing with the national agencies and the member states. We're looking at how we're going to do that in partnership with our international partners, in particular with NASA, how we start to work with the commercial sector in a new way, which is something that we are not experienced in doing. We're learning how to do now, and how we're going to work with the scientific community too, as an important part of that, both in terms of enabling exploration and also creating benefits from what we're doing. So just from me, thank you enormously to you, the community, for everything that you've done to help us. I hope that we can help you. And together, I'm very excited about what we've just seen and the extraordinary opportunities that are coming for all of us. Thank you very much.